Hello and welcome to MitoTalk. We are going to have a deep dive complex one. It's a starting point of cellular power. I'm your host, Dr. Sukant Khurana. With me is an amazing young scientist, Basudha Banerjee. She's our guest. Welcome, Basudha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khurana.
So the focus of episode is around complex one, NADH dehydrogenase in energy metabolism, disease, and therapeutic innovation. So everyone, welcome back to MitoTalk, where we explore the science powering every cell in your body. I'm your host, Dr. Sukant Khurana, and today we begin a new sort of angle to this whole talk. We are starting with complex one, also known as NADH, known oxidoreductase, the gateway to energy generation. As I mentioned, joining us is Vasudha Banerjee, uh, who has been passionate about regenerative medicine. Um, let's talk of what is complex one. Let's start at the top. Complex one is the first step in electron transport chain. But for our audience, what exactly is it and why is it so essential, Vasudha?
Thank you for the question. So, complex 1 is a giant enzyme complex which is embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane. Its job is to accept the electrons from NADH, a product of the TCA cycle, and transfer them further to the ubiquinone, which is the coenzyme Q. And as this happens, it pumps protons across the membrane, establishing a proton gradient that drives the ATP synthesis. It's like flipping the switch on the mitochondrial energy grid. If complex 1 malfunctions, the entire ETC suffers.
Well, that's really interesting. So, in some ways, it gives people an idea that when there is degeneration, it will not start with complex one. Uh, I'm kind of getting ahead of a lot of things. But let's ask ourselves, Basudha, what happens when complex one goes wrong, especially in the context of neurological disorders?
Complex 1 dysfunction is implicated in a plethora of neurodegenerative conditions. So, in Parkinson's disease, for example, studies have shown that neurons in the substantia nigra have defective complex 1 activity, which leads to ATP depletion and oxidative stress. Another example is the Leigh syndrome, which is a pediatric mitochondrial disease. So, mutations in complex 1 subunits, either from the nuclear or mitochondrial DNA, can cause severe neurodevelopmental regression, respiratory failure, and early death. And the brain, being energy hungry, is especially vulnerable whenever complex 1 falters.
Well, that's very important to understand that complex one failure is sort of tied to so many brain health issues. It's really fascinating as well as heartbreaking. Let's talk of solutions. I know complex one inhibitors are used in cancer uh, and research, but are there bypass strategies in development?
Absolutely. While rotenone and pyrisidine are classical complex 1 inhibitors used in models, therapeutically we are looking to bypass complex 1 when it is defective. So, one exciting approach uses alternative NADH dehydrogenases like NDI from yeast that can be introduced via gene therapy. These enzymes don't pump protons, but they can re-establish the electron flow and reduce the reactive oxygen species production. There is also growing interest in small molecules that shuttle electrons directly to ubiquinone, bypassing the complex 1 altogether, a real lifeline in mitochondrial disorders.
That leads me to more futuristic intervention, mitochondrial replacement. Where does complex one fit into that picture?
Yes, mitochondrial replacement is gaining ground, especially in reproductive medicine. In cases where mitochondrial DNA mutations might affect a complex 1 subunits, like the it might affect the complex 1 subunits. In that case, nuclear transfer techniques, they allow for replacement of defective mitochondria with the healthy ones from a donor. It is very controversial but promising and already used in preventing transmission of mitochondrial diseases. For adults, we are still exploring exosome mediated delivery of functional mitochondria, though they're still in the initial trials.
Well, I think it's time to look at AI in mutation prediction and drug design. Let's switch gears to something I know both of us are very excited about, AI in mitochondrial medicine. How is AI helping with complex one mutation analysis and discovery?
Honestly, it is a game changer. We are using AI to analyze massive patient genome data sets, finding patterns in the NADH binding domain mutations, often buried in noise. AI models can now predict which variants will disrupt the electron flow or proton pumping, then simulate drug binding in silico. And this helps us to prioritize mutations for therapy. We are also seeing AI design allosteric modulators that fine tune complex 1 activity rather than just turning it on or off, which is the major key for avoiding all the side effects.
Well, let's have some closing thoughts. Before we close, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to remember about complex one?
Complex 1 isn't just a molecule, it's a master regulator of cell fate. From neurodegeneration to metabolic disease, its function determines whether a cell thrives or dies. And today, with gene therapy, biotargeted drugs, and AI tools, we are no longer helpless in the face of its dysfunction.
That's beautifully said. Thank you, Basudha, for sharing your insights. To our
Thank
listeners, remember your mitochondria are working very hard, even as you sleep. Stay tuned to our next deep dive where we'll explore complex 2 and the bridge between metabolism and respiration. This is my talk. I'm Dr. Sukant Khurana. Until next time, keep yourselves energized.
thank you very much.